Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back with my buddy Paul from the Comic Binge.
Howdy.
Yeah, not the
How you doing?
comics binge, the Comic Binge.
A comic binge, man. God, get it right. God.
Well, speaking about this, I want to talk today about X-Men, God loves, man kills. So let's get into it. So right off the bat, boom, X-Men, solid logo. You don't really get better than that classic X-Men logo as far as I'm concerned. And then got like a thank you from Chris Claremont. Would have been nice to get like recommended readings or something, like, hey, if you like this, read this other stuff, or I don't know, something. But whatevs. This apparently is the 7th printing. I don't really know. I don't really know. But Paul,
yes,
page 1. You wanna walk us through what's going on here?
Yeah. So right now we've got some kids running through the street, and they meet up with something. They're running, and we don't know what's going on. And they meet up with these people hunting them in the playground, and they're confused. And you see right now that they're the purifiers. I'm not sure if they call themselves the purifiers on this page as of yet, but that's who they are. And it immediately takes you into what makes the X-Men so unique. I think as a series, as a characters, as a continuity, and you immediately are brought into their world. So if you're in, this is actually a pretty good jumping on point, you could say, for new readers. Would you agree with that?
100%. And the reason why I bring this book up is over the past 4 or 5 years, I have friends, some of them younger, that I met like at Comic Cons when they were in high school, and now they're drawing at Marvel, right? Or they're drawing for DC, or they're drawing, but this is true. And they'll come across me, and I first experienced this, like, I want to say around 2020, when they'd say things like, comics are all political now, Rob. You know, it was never about that. Never about politics. Never about, just fun adventures. And I'm like,
hilarious.
Did you ever read God Loves, Man Kills?
Okay, yeah.
And you want to know what I got back? At least they were honest. No. You know? I'm like, no. So this first 2 pages, you're opening up to 2 black children being hunted down in a playground in the middle of night, alluding that their parents have already been murdered by this group of people. And these people shoot them dead, not for being black, but for being mutants, right? And I gotta be honest with you, it was probably a twofer for these fucking Proud Boy motherfuckers. You know, like,
no kidding, yeah.
And then they string them up, you know, at the fucking
messed up, dude.
They string them up on the playground, right, muty, and Magneto comes across them, right?
Dude.
Right? Like a little too late.
Yeah, and I think this is, and again, the reason why I think this, it's really fitting we're reading this right now, because this really goes into like the core of what makes the X-Men unique. I think the X-Men has a rich like continuity, right? Like that, everyone loves that about them. But really, this is the stuff that what Magneto does right here. That you see him kind of like this is what drives Magneto, right? Like this is what gives him the justification of him as a character to be the Malcolm X to Charles's Martin Luther King, if you will. Again, there's an example anyway, but
that's Stan Lee's example, by the way. Stan Lee brought that one up back in the day.
Yeah, and so I think to here you get to see why Magneto is the way he is. Besides, if you already know the backstory, it's a good reminder of it's not just his backstory, but actually what the current story is, right? Like this is what drives him as a character now.
Yeah, well, with the X-Men, it felt like the problems were real.
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't like with Batman and the Batman comics were almost fucking unreadable in the 80s. They really were. They weren't, like you think of Batman now, you think of Batman the animated series, but Batman in the 80s, outside of Dark Knight Returns, was just fucking atrocious. Couldn't tell you what it was about, man. It was forgettable. And every time I got an issue, I was disappointed. But with X-Men, like, it felt like even though there's fantastic shit going on, these are our problems as well. These are real world problems.
Yeah.
Through a superhero lens, which is what kills me when people say comics are all political now. Look, man, but fucking I remember
most political. Yeah.
Man, I remember Stan Lee saying this, but I may have dreamt it. Okay. I'll give it a caveat, but I think I remember Stan Lee at 93 because it was the X-Men 30th anniversary, right? At Comic-Con. Yeah, it was the 30th anniversary in 1993. And he was saying that the only reason why Professor Xavier and Magneto were not black was because they couldn't do a whole team book with black leadership and stuff in the 60s. Like that was it. And that's where the Malcolm X and Martin Luther King parable came from, but they had to be white because they had to sell a book, and that they just felt like that wasn't going to be able to happen, and in 1963 you could kind of understand why, like they were bombing people, but here we get into like here now this alone, a group of people hunting down mutants to kill them, right? That's one political, like sociological injustice, right? Yeah. Now we're gonna layer it on with the character you might be familiar, folks. We're gonna lay it on with Reverend Stryker. Hey, Brandon.
Yeah.
You enjoying the video so far?
Always.
Well, did you know I have a YouTube channel with like 1,000 other videos?
1,000?
Like, sadly so, I think. I just wanted to remind everyone out there watching the show. Just if you check out the rest of the Sketchcraft channel, you can see that I got art. I got art tips. We got speed vids with audio commentary. I walk through my art. If you do color pencil, if you do watercolor, you do pen and ink, you do digital. I got it all. I got art tips, right? I got like perspective, digital inking tips. I also have 1,000 real-time live streams. So if you ever see me working on something and you're like, hey, how did I let's go check this out, Brandon. Let's go see me.
Yeah.
Here's me recently doing the Apocalypse Commission, right? Doing a little marker rendering here.
All right.
It's a little inking going on there. You can see me inking, right? I think you were there that night.
I was there.
Yeah,
I was chatting with you.
Yeah. So you can always come back and go, how did you, I want to do that. How did he do it? And you can see right in real time, if you can dig in there. Now, Brandon, we don't expect everyone to watch these videos all the way through for hours and hours, but it is a free resource just sitting there waiting to be discovered, right, Brandon?
If it's free, it's for me. That's what I say.
Right. Also, Brandon and I, for years we did a podcast. I want to say like 4 or 5 years. All those are in there too. If you ever want to hear Brandon and I just wax poetic about whatever. And then I also did a podcast from 2010 to 2014 with tons of like career help things. So if you're like, Rob, I need some career guidance and help and I don't know, all that other bullshit, go check that out there because I don't really like helping people anymore. Right, Brandon? Like,
not at all.
Not at all. Is there anything that you appreciate on the old
I appreciate that there's 1,000 of it and it's free, that I don't have to pay for it, I don't have to do anything crazy, that it's all here. And if I want to be like, hey man, how do I use a Copic marker? Bam. How do I use some watercolor? No. Bam.
I'm not against giving me money, so right here, right at the top, you can click that little link, go to ko-fi.com/sketchcraft, give me some money, I'll go buy a coffee. Ooh. Or if you go to shopsketchcraft.com, you can buy a print when I have them up. Right now the store is closed for the winter, but in spring we'll open back up and we'll have prints in there. You can get all that stuff, right? But other than that, go check out the YouTube channel. All right, Brandon, let's get back to the show.
Let's go.
You may know him as General Stryker in X-Men 2, X-Men United, right? No one calls it X-Men United. It's the dumbest fucking subtitle I've ever heard. It's X-Men 2.
X2, baby.
God, I gotta tell you, man, Brian Cox fucking nailed it.
Oh, he did, dude.
Even though he's not a televangelist in the movie, in this series, he is a televangelist. I guess Jimmy Swaggart, Billy Graham style at the time, what you would call this, right? Mm-hmm. Evangelical. Mm-hmm. So we're taking on religion now, right? Like Chris Claremont's like, dude. He put, look, in case you wanted to know, holy fucking Bible. This guy's like reading scripture and he's like, we got to kill these mutants. They're the devil spawn, And I got to tell you, this frame, I never noticed it until now, right? But if you had Venetian blinds right here, you get those Jason Wynn panels from Spawn. Look at the desk with the
Jason
big
Wynn.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like right?
Wynn. That's a deep cut, dude.
Deep. Well, not for Rob, but like I'm extremely familiar with my first 120 issues of Spawn. So like but this right here, and I get that might be a popular framing, but you could almost line this up to some of those panels,
Yeah, for sure.
But the airbrushing work, I mean, folks, the mood in the sky, like as a kid as an artist, I was really taken with color, even more than line work as a kid. And the mood here, let alone you. I wasn't seeing this in 1991 outside of The Dark Knight Returns. In 1982, this had to be like, I mean, right? Like the first time you see color, if you're a blind person or something, like this is pretty amazing work. And
Well, and I think.
Go ahead.
Good. Sorry. Well,
No,
just kind of talk about this because this is the introduction to Stryker, like you were saying, and I think what's really cool about what Brent Anderson does here is that you get this establishing that he's powerful with the tower, right? He's got money, he's a reverend, right? But I love how just how focused and how sinister he is by focusing on the eyes. They have the Bible, and then it's like it goes right to the eyes, and then the wide shot of him just kind of being very stoic and just very confident. Like there's the way they draw this is very indicative of a man of leadership and power. And it just I love to see like the emphasis of the Bible and the spiritual thing that he's going through and how he's researching these X-Men characters, these mutants. It is like you said, the color, the orange, it kind of reminds me of like it's about to be dark. That's what it kind of lets me think of as that maybe that was an artistic choice to kind of show you that this is the last bit of light this book's gonna have because it's about to get real deep here.
I don't know, man. I got real fucking deep first.
Right, I know.
Like, like there's a dead kid's, her sister's brother's blood's all over her. You know what I mean? I think. Look, if I had any criticism though of these two pages. Sure. Is this building is based off a real building in New York. It's been in a lot of movies. It's the Oscorp building, right? If you've ever looked at that. It's pretty famous. Yeah. But it has these X's built into the structure, which confused me as a kid. I'm like, is that the X-Men headquarters? It isn't because it's like Evangelical Stryker Crusade. It's a Stryker building, but it is weird to have X's in the Stryker building. Like that's an artistic decision. I would have eliminated the X's from the building.
Yeah, that's a little confusing. Agreed. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a nitpick, but that's kind of what artists do. And then the other thing, what I would say is, look, this is 8.5 by 11 magazine format. It's built for it. Obviously, it goes right to the brim. And it's how many pages? I don't know. It doesn't tell me.
It's like 60 something pages.
64 pages or something like that. It's like 3 issues basically.
Yeah.
This could have easily been like 6 issues long. It's a lot of story compacted.
It's compressed.
So yeah, for sure. So the lettering, like you're gonna have to hunt a little bit. Like you're gonna have to be like, yeah.
Well, it's funny, Rob, because one of my biggest criticisms of reading the current Spider-Man run, which I've enjoyed, but it's just so decompressed. It's so like stretched out. And but the thing with comics, and I think here's the thing with comics though, and we both know this, it's the ultimate compression like medium, in my opinion, right? Like you can get so much information to the reader so quickly, whereas film and novels get bogged down in it. I think comics, you can just blow through it pretty quickly and put so much more into your book and your stories than people like. I think artists and writers just tend, because of most of the mainstream monthly format stuff, they just try to like pad it out a little bit. And then I'm not saying it's always a bad thing. I like padding things out. Like sometimes like it's cool to be artistic and try to take take your time. But like this is a great example, I think, of the medium of itself, of how much information you can pack into it. Because you're right, like this is only like 3 issues basically. It's like definitely like at least 5 issues worth of material really compacted. But to be honest,
well, more when you consider the aspect ratio is bigger than a comic, right? So
yeah, exactly.
There's places to put text here that you could never. A comic would have cropped it, like.
Good point. Yeah. I didn't think about that.
I agree with you. I think the reason why we end up with what we're getting today is people who grew up with this sort of stuff, this condensed storylines, were like, oh, what if we just flesh that out a bit more and gave it the space? And they would do that, but then they took that story and they told the story in like 12 issues versus 6.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, or 24 issues versus
instead of 12.
Instead of 12. And so then you end up where like this might be 4 panels, right? And then this might be like 4 panels. The team part would take up 2 pages, 4 panels each, with like maybe minimal words. And meanwhile, the artist got like a script.
It'd be double page.
And the artist would have gotten a script filled with fucking text. And then there's nothing on I gotta tell you, there's nothing on the printed page. I gotta tell you, I've been there where I've gotten comic book scripts and there's all this writing for me, but the reader doesn't get any of that. It's left to me to illustrate all these words. And I gotta tell you, like, even if you go and you see these, this is a good X-Men like primer, but you don't get all this extra stuff. Now, that explains who he is, former Canadian secret agent, skeletons laced with adamantium, making it virtually unbreakable. Like you kind of need that if you need to set up who these are in one issue.
And
unfortunately,
which for my, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I'll let you go. Is unfortunately, we do live in a time where half the audience will complain that they had to read a comic. And that's the one that has always bugged the shit out of me. I'm like, but I get sometimes, you get that like Silent Night issue of Sin City where there's nothing. You just, panel to panel to panel. But when I can read, I always felt like I was getting my money's, when I got art and words, I'm getting my money's worth. Because I'm not just blowing through these panels in 3 seconds. Like I'm actually reading the story. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think and I'm assuming this is probably Marvel style because of what you just said. Like how like this writer's not going to format that the way
100%.
Yeah. So to me, and to be honest, like I've not written many comics in my day, very limited, but I definitely see the value in having Marvel style, and I think almost maybe it might be a good thing to go back to that in some ways because it actually might eliminate the decompression of today's storytelling because go ahead, sorry.
I want you to finish what you have to say.
No, I just think I think Marvel style is probably the best way to do it as for the most part, unless you have a good writer that knows how to really let the artist shine. But it's hard because artists don't always just to get an artist and writer gelling. It's a partnership. It's not something that you can just easily do. It's to get them gelling together well. It takes time, and Marvel style seems to be, to me, sometimes the best way to do it because, especially in the monthly format, because letting the artist dictate the story and the pacing, and that to me is sometimes the most important thing because the writer's job is to dictate the story as where it's going ultimately, but the artist needs to really entertain the people. And as writers, as much as I like to think of myself as a visual person, I don't have as good a visual language as an artist like yourself or someone else.
No writer is going to be able to see it as well as an artist can, and no artist is going to be able to get the story at the deeper level that the writer is.
Yeah.
That's why you have two jobs. That's why you have two jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why you have people doing, writing all their whole life or drawing their whole life. And some people can cross over, but I always say like when they cross over, I feel like one will always lean more than the other. Like Jeff Smith's a brilliant illustrator. His stories are good, but they're not, they're not as it's not as deep, and it shouldn't be, right? So because he's spending most of his time drawing, it's just, like whatever time you spend your life doing. I would also say like I'm working with a writer now who's been given the Marvel style, right? And he's never been used to that. And seeing the work that I've turned in, he's like, there's probably value in this now. Like, like he, right? Because I'm doing things that I can't eventually folks will be able to talk to, but I'm drawing things he couldn't think of, even though I'm following the description.
Yeah.
You're right.
And that's why it's beneficial to let the artists have as much freedom, whatever you're doing, to have them as much freedom as they can, because again, it's like I compared comics to music, is that it's like when you're being a band, I could bring you a very, very basic skeleton structure song, and I bring it to like 3 other people at the same time, and all of a sudden it completely takes on a life of its own that I never would have thought of, and it's 1,000 times better. And that's the thing about collaboration. So, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent on that.
Let me now this page, this is a whole thing where this is a whole thing that essentially what's happening here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, is this is where Kitty has to confront people calling her a mutie lover, and then and she has a I don't know this character. I thought this was
I don't know her either, to be honest.
I guess you have to be reading monthly X-Men at this time to know who the hell some of these characters are. Could have been Storm though. Like there was no sense to it, but she basically says, it's no big deal. And then she's like, well, what if you were, and then she throws in the N-word,
The N-word.
like she tries to like this is one of those things where like we got it by now, Chris. You don't need to go there. You don't need to actually say it. We sort of get it, right? So,
Right.
but I do think because this was intended for adults, they were going for, let's use a bad word, and
They're
that's the
going for,
one.
like,
I don't
yeah,
know. I don't know.
the
I don't feel
artiste.
comfortable. Even I
Yeah.
wasn't comfortable reading that when I was a kid. So even now
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know about it. But I do think about.
It's blacked out on Marvel Unlimited, by the way.
Oh yeah, well, not on these original printings.
Yeah,
So
not on these though.
the this panel though, like with this back and forth, I 100% in this script there was probably a long discussion over what they're arguing about. Like, and it was probably something like, give him the blah blah blah, and he's gonna say this and no. Or it might have been a full script. There's so many panels there. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say. You could probably just tell them, like, just give me a bunch of people talking back and forth, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah, but like I gotta tell you, like the thing that I think you can't understate it now. Now maybe you don't get it, but like the mood on some of these panels with the coloring, like just the way, like even like the nightline, they have this wall TV, like the way this is colored.
Yeah,
there's just something that feels real. Like even like the gouache, he puts like little gray washes in like Colossus's shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
You weren't getting that. In
and
like
so
monthly comics.
Yeah, and so now we're seeing that all pay forward with Stryker and Professor Xavier doing a live debate on TV.
This
and
Paul, what do you think? So yeah, so this is them having Stryker and Professor X are on ABC News, which is crazy. It's ABC News. They didn't make up a, like, wow.
Not
Nightline.
ACD. Yeah.
Right. I thought for certain it would have been like, MVC, like Marvel. You know what I mean? Like something, but no,
Dan Rather. This is what you think.
Right. Dan Rapture presents, Stryker.
Dan Rapture.
So, and it's clearly like Clark fucking Kent, which is really crazy to me.
I didn't even catch that.
And at the time in '82, Clark Kent was a news reporter. He was on TV in the comics of Superman. That I know because I did get a couple issues of Superman at the time.
Is this the Byrne run?
This is before that, man. So
okay.
Yeah. But they're having this debate on TV in which essentially like it's the Nixon Kennedy debate in a way, because like Stryker comes off better because Professor Xavier doesn't have the look for TV. Like he looks mean, he looks untrustworthy on TV. You don't see it here. They have to tell you that,
Yeah, which is kind of weird to be. That's probably one of my few nitpicks. Is like you go with it, but yeah, you're right. You don't really get what they're trying to portray super well.
I only knew the subtext for this because that Nixon Kennedy thing was a big topic even when I was in school at the time. Like anytime we got to the rise of TV in modern politics, that was the one he had spit on his face. Okay, I got you, but this format of the debate, what do you think this is used in the X-Men, the Bryan Singer movies, the first one, the second one, like it's pretty common, right? They always stick in.
Yeah.
Was that big in the comics at the time? Like, did they go on to TV and have debates in the comics, or is that pulled from here? I just want to know how common that was. I'm unfamiliar.
I think, to be quite honest, it's not as common as you would think. Because at the time when I was reading comics, Professor Xavier was gone. So because he was in space. And so as far as with the X-Men, they were on the run. They're in Australia. You had X Factor was kind of like the mutants working for the humans. The mutants didn't really have a public face. So it's a great job mentioning that, because this does remind me of X-Men 1 when Jean Grey and Senator Kelly are talking. And to be honest, I wonder if this is definitely what they took from and borrowed from that, because it was genius, because that's what Professor Xavier should be doing. And to be honest too, really quick, the X-Men cartoon probably did a great job of that as well, because they definitely did that in the cartoon too.
Right. Yeah, that may have been where they got it from, but Chris Claremont, I mean, right here, 82.
Claremont's
Also, something you never see really, the X-Men suiting up. like putting on clothes and their suits.
Love
Right?
that, dude.
I like how Wolverine puts
I'm a
on his
costume
helmet and he
guy.
still has a cigar in his mouth. Like if you can, still has
That's how he does it, bro. Great.
It's like,
Freaking
all
love
right.
it. So yeah, so basically, so after getting all pissed off about Professor Xavier coming off bad on TV, they go and burn off some steam and go in the danger room, which I don't know how they afford like these non-hologram like robots. It's like Professor Xavier must be basically like a secret billionaire, you know? Like I get it, but it's crazy.
You never think about it,
I don't care, but it's just funny to think about. Like
This was the first
I
time I've
love
ever seen a danger room thing where like it's an actual puzzle. Like Wolverine's in a cave.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, word.
There's like this family they're supposed to save over here. Like this is incredibly well thought out needlessly in a way, right? Like you cut to the Jim Lee
Yeah.
X-Men and it's like they're in a room just fighting. But here it's like
Well, they're in a room. Yeah.
you almost wonder like if they could have took this idea and made a Where's Waldo book out of it, like the danger room,
Oh,
whatever. And you turn the
dude.
page and there's all these different
God
scenarios,
damn.
like, and they're like trying to
That's
save.
a good
each other.
idea. Shit, bro.
Yeah, I just
Got
signed
it.
some poor artist up for a shitload of work. There's Wolverine trying to pick the lock with his like
Work.
he could just cut through it, right? But he can't because it's made out of
That's what I thought. I'm
adamantium.
like, why can't he cut through it? I don't get
Yeah,
it.
it's made out of adamantium or something. He can't.
He's got adamantium laying around. Like Professor Xavier's like, just
Adamantium
build us out adamantium.
Can't cut through adamantium,
I know, but come on.
So this is the classic, right? They try to use their powers directly to solve their issues, but then they have to use teamwork. They have to flip around and help each other to,
And then things go awry. Everyone gets all upset. They don't work. Dude, this right here. So this is so basically Professor Xavier's bumming out because he didn't come across his TV, and the purifiers make their mark right here. And Rob, I gotta tell you, I don't know if you saw my Twitter, but I posted this as I was reading it, and I'm like, God damn, that layout on the right. Whew, I just
yeah, it's very Golgo 13 to me. Like that would be the thing that I'd relate it to, which is a spy anime from the 70s.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, he had a series of games on the NES that were incredibly cool and frustrating, but there was like these sniper levels, too.
But this right here is so powerful. It's just sound effects and just a few word balloons. There's no like
well, what helps too is the actual coloring, because the coloring has like real depth to like the explosions and stuff, so it sells a lot of this open space.
And one of the things I want to, I'll add to the last page real quick. If you just flip back real quick, is that last panel where she's like perfect. Like this, like everything is so beautifully told. And that one last panel, I just love just a great exclamation point. Perfect. It's like it's just evil and I love it. It's perfect. No pun intended.
Yeah,
I think it's great. It's like the first word you see is perfect after everyone gets murdered. Basically, it's a really just interesting layout there.
I'm surprised that like X3 didn't use this setup where maybe the leadership all gets supposedly killed in the beginning, and the leftover newer kids like Bobby, Rogue,
they kind of do that already though.
Were like left
X2.
Without Wolverine. No, they I know they did that, but they were captured. They weren't like dead.
I know, but it's kind of the same thing.
I know, but the problem that's my one complaint about X2. Like I like the jokes, but it's like those things were always done at the expense of like Cyclops. They get into his car and he's listening to like 98 Degrees and shit like that, and you're like, all right, man. Like, so dude, as much as I love Bryan Singer's X-Men, what they did to Cyclops is unforgivable to me. Like it's
bad.
It's not good.
Them dirty.
It's not good. And now here's where like these costumes straight out of the 70s. Like I'm not bell bottoms and shit. You're like, this was not cool in 1982. Like, right? This is like off the wall. We got like we have Madonna in 82. I know we had
she's like late. She's like more mid 80s. I'd say like 84, 85.
Beat It, like
Beat It definitely is there. Yeah, Beat It's definitely there.
We had Queen and Chip. I don't know, like
so you get the reveal of how Storm, Cyclops, and Professor X are dead here. Everyone gets revealed. I love Nightcrawler's response. Nightcrawler's my favorite X-Men. The background's great.
Look at this right here. Let me zoom in.
Yeah.
and turn the focus.
There you go.
Like this is fully
That's great.
painted back here.
Damn.
Like motherfucker,
Very
like
no
painted all
expense.
this stuff.
Yeah,
Which,
seriously.
and so
And-
that means this is an ink drawing. Everything back here is painted. Like
Damn.
Steve Wolf was like, to paint. He's like watching The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross. He's like, I
Bob
can do
Ross.
some of that. Yeah, like
The little trees.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and this is interesting because Kitty's freaking out, and Oliviana shows up, and it's like she's not a mutant. That's weird. So, yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know who Oliviana. I don't know these characters.
What?
Yeah,
Our child, Holmes. Come on.
Oh, Ileana was Colossus's sister. Or
Yeah,
something?
that's his sister. Yeah.
Yeah. I pieced
Love
it
it.
together when I.
You got it. You got it. All right. So yeah, and they find out the purifiers are hunting them down over there, and they kind of figure it out, and like start following them here, and then
These motherfuckers are everywhere.
yeah, they are. And then X-Men go start to stake out where Professor Xavier and everyone got lost because Wolverine's just gonna sniff his way out of it, everything. So, bad guys show up. I love this card bit with Colossus. This is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. This is something you'd put in like as a sequence. Like I'm reminded of the Winter Soldier opening, right?
Great point.
It's closer to that where they're in a car. Wolverine, like look at the Wolverine just cutting through that door.
So great.
And fantastic, but still grounded.
Yeah, it doesn't go over the top, and okay, I love details like this where obviously X-Men are coming up, they get the the drop, they got the drop on them, and then Magneto shows up and saves them. I love details of like these guys in their suits and their underwear. It's like,
and luckily one of them wasn't freeballing it that day.
Yeah, exactly.
God,
it's
right?
like, but Magneto shows up, and this is an important part because I don't know when Magneto eventually joins the X-Men. This obviously must have been before, but this is where Magneto, I think it starts to be like not necessarily an ally, but not necessarily a foe. He starts entering that gray area once Professor Xavier's off the board, and this is where I think you first to see that kind of formulate here, and it's good and it's great.
This is the first time I came across the concept of an anti-hero where Magneto's not the villain, but he's not really the good guy, right? This is what they would try to turn Venom and the Punisher and everyone into in the 90s, where you sort of root for them, even though they're kind of like they're on the verge of just being the villain.
Yeah, no. And see, hey, I wanted to ask you about this page here specifically. So yeah, here this is kind of a weird thing where like they kind of shoot Oliviana, who's they reveal that she's not a mutant, which is total bullshit because she totally is. What the hell are these three panels? Like I love this art, but this doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. Is it like elongating the arm and then it gets to eventually like short, like only her hand to like her forearm to like her whole body? You see what I'm saying? It's a weird sequence.
Well, this is where you're mixing graphic design with camera placement. So this is a graphic. This is trying to like do a camera shot, but you need a full. What he's probably under the pressure for is he doesn't have a full figure every page. There he's got a full figure, but he doesn't have a lot of figures. So you're trying to put a figure on a page because figure work sells books. So he wants to put a female figure, the villain. He's got. Like where do you place? And so puts her in the center of the page and then goes, hey, I could probably just take this and make this kind of work it backwards, So he's trying to go Z pattern. It's following this because of the Z pattern. Like you kind of work it backwards. And
this is probably my least favorite like page because of that. Go ahead.
Here's I don't mean to cut you off. This is your least favorite page because of this, right?
It disrupts me because I don't really get it. Just kind of looks weird because I think that third panel, the one in the middle with a blue dialogue box, I think that or a balloon. I think you could take out that whole panel and just have her move her more to the left and then to my left, and it negates. It's fine.
I think a few things like one, this doesn't need to be here.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That one
to this, you just take this out. You just don't need this. You just leave it white. And then this is a little trickery because it looks like they're the same person.
Almost, right? Yeah.
It's that's the problem. The hair color is the same. You have to be following the story. What I would sort of push to do is put this reaction here facing
Mm.
this way instead of this way,
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
and then just whatever said no. She could be yelling no, and you could hear, "Is the mutie dead?" And then they could trim some of this. Like it's all you have
Yeah.
to do. And
Yeah,
then, but
it's
what
just
has to happen here to make this work is if you remove this panel and you remove this, right here needs to be blood. There needs
ooh.
to be some kind of, but they don't want to kill her, so it's like you got to physically, you know what I mean? Like
Hide it.
yeah, you have to do something that pushes that a little bit better, but
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just,
but you could
it's not,
solve it just by removing that.
yeah, that panel's just it trips me up, and I think it's not, again, the thing is art's really great, but yeah, sorry.
What's crazy is we get this. And
Yeah.
this Wolverine 1-2-3 Claw. Now, I'm not familiar with a lot of the X-Men comics before this.
Sure.
I have read the Byrne stuff, but more like I admired the art. All right. But this is where I first
didn't read
remember
it.
seeing this Wolverine 1-2-3 Claw thing that they would use in the movies all the time.
Oh, this is a staple, dude. This is a classic Wolverine staple. This is 100% used all the time.
And it's just like a little bit on the page, right? It's you almost think now like it would be 1, 2, 3 across, like it would take this much space. It's such a cool bit,
But I kind of like it, the fact that it's short, because again, I agree with you. You could make it bigger and format it a little bit differently, but I like the fact that so much on this page and that whole compression idea. I do think it keeps the pace pretty fast here, because it sets up Magneto at the very end, which I love. I love how he's like, Wolverine, you don't need to do that. And he's like, I'm not afraid of you, mutie. And he's like, well, guess what, bitch? You turn the page, and then I love this. I love that.
Yeah, that's a great iconic panel,
That's fantastic. That to me right there, homie, that's fucking Magneto right there. That is just, you want to take a panel that just explains Magneto in a nutshell, bam, right there. Like,
and then we get this batshit crazy dream sequence,
dude, and it's all red
with the Twin Towers and the crucifixion of Professor Xavier and all the mutants and demons and shit.
All those panels. It's great. 12. Is that 12 panels?
Yeah, more 16. So
16, my bad. Math.
Yeah, it's the Dark Knight, almost the Dark Knight format, right? So
yeah, almost.
This is General Stryker having a vision or a nightmare. It's the thing that's missing. Like they sort of do it right in X-Men 2, where you sort of
not
see
as good
like,
though.
It's that loose head thing, but imagine if like X-Men 2 had this David Lynchian fucking crazy demon
dark.
Yeah, where you'd see this shit and the guy was grew up super religious and then goes to Vietnam and gets radicalized by the military. You know what I mean? And so he has this extra layer of like religious repression built on him upon the mutants. Not just that his kid became one, it's that his Baptist fucking, because he's got that Southern accent, right?
Right.
His little evangelical Baptist childhood is like, I mean, it's some dark shit, dude. And what's crazy is we go from that to you find out that Cyclops and
they're all alive.
Storm, or they're alive. They're just sort of being tortured. And
the
everyone's
backstory
fucking
here
smoking. Like welcome to 1982, right?
Yeah,
like every motherfucker.
I love this. Is this painted now? This
yeah,
right
this is all
page?
painted. Yeah,
it's beautiful, and I love, again, the layout of this is perfect because it does a great job of getting you up to speed. There's the text fills you in, but you don't really need the text, in my opinion, because the art does a great job of telling you everything you need to know right here. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's Steve Oliff brilliantly.
It's brilliant, dude.
Put this together. It's very Alex Rossian in a way.
Yeah.
Alex Ross had to have seen this sort of shit.
For sure. And really quickly, for people who are following along with this right here gets revealed that Stryker's son was a mutant and he killed him. And he killed his mom, the mother too, right?
Yeah, that they were exposed to radiation from bomb. If people go see that movie Oppenheimer coming out in July, so like a year from now, you're like, Oppenheimer came out a year ago, bro. The movie Oppenheimer will cover when we built this, when they were testing the bomb, they had this facility where they would put all the families of the military people and the scientists and stuff. So they were there because they didn't know how long they were going to be there. So they were saying that during the nuclear bomb testings that this was like they got into an accident or they had been exposed to it for so long that he feels like the kid was basically turned into a mutant. So he started blaming it on. And then they got into an accident. He had to give birth on the road, saw it was a devil baby, and then killed them both. Basically, and made it look like an accident or whatever.
Stuff, dude, this is just great art, and I love the next page too. Like, see, and this is where I think the subtleties of comic book layouts, Rob. This because the people don't get enough credit for it. Like, look, I love how this ends with the whole with Storm being like, yelling kitty, and how it's going down and it's like, ooh, it's dark, and then the next panel is just like an out wide shot of the city of like emptiness and nothingness. There's something brilliant there.
This panel is one of the
Gorgeous.
If I had to put down like the top 3 or 5 panels from a comic that directly influenced me, this is probably number 1 or 2.
Shit. Dude, that's so funny. I fucking love this panel too. Yeah.
It looks like the way it's painted looks like a frame from a movie.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I've been saying like every time they do something set in New York, like they're shooting Daredevil Born Again right now, or they're on a delay, but they're shooting. I was like,
yeah,
you need this scene. You need this giant lightning bolt in New York. There's something about that I just can't. Like it's so good, man. The silhouette, the way this was painted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and what it evokes, right? It evokes like how like they're trapped. There's nothing around to save them. There's this isolation.
It's a concrete jungle, man.
Yeah, exactly. They're trapped in concrete. This is the visual language that people do not, and I mean 100% serious here. Like people do not get the language of comic book. Like this is obviously not just more than comics, but the visual language. This right here, like people don't give comics enough credit. Like there's so much good shit like this, and people just don't they just don't think about it. Like this is brilliant.
Well, it also is like it showcases the benefit of a prestige format. Right.
Yes.
So this is being painted. If this was executed in like 4-color or 8-color process, it wouldn't have been as iconic. It would have looked cool, but not like this. There's something about the mood, the type of paints that were used at the time too. Like Richard Corbin sort of has these kind of like palettes that they're almost photorealistic, but not. It lies somewhere in between. Feels like a dream.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's very dreamlike, almost surreal, but it's real, right?
It's these greens. Yeah, Corbin used a lot of these weird aqua greens, and I used to say like if you look at the way they painted ocean water in the 70s, there was always this green tint to it that always invoked something otherworld, like there's something sinister. But no, I don't know what it was. It would always disturb me a little bit. But like I couldn't stop looking at it.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's totally. Sorry. So yeah, this is just great stuff of setting up, how they're trapped and they're how they're gonna get out. So and it's beautifully done.
And then here we run right into the fucking Warriors.
Right, like, I was gonna say, I'm like, I don't know like what this is supposed to be exactly. A gang of like
the Warriors,
eclectic gang.
They got the gayest gang ever made, man. Like,
with the scarves. I mean, hey, more power to them. Scarves are awesome.
My mom's best friend and hairdresser, Santiago, he was like my godfather in a way. Like he wasn't my official godfather, but he was.
I got you. Yeah, he was like,
and he's gay as shit, right? And like this is the 80s, and this was his jam, man. Like when we were gonna go out on the town, like my mom we'd go to Mexico for, my mom would party and she'd take me with her, and he would dress up like in the cowboy hat, like in the belt buckle with no shirt and shit,
That's a look. That's definitely a look.
I was like, the Warriors, they love that, man. But this panel's like almost straight out of like old Eastman and Laird Turtles, right?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Okay. I mean, very Corbin like. I think I gotta wonder, man. Like, I don't know. It could just be the flavor of the time.
Yeah,
the shooting up of the mutie that they shoot up like the apple core, this sort of thing, like very Wachowski, right?
Yeah. It's good. See, again, the only thing I'll say about those 2 pages is that, and this is kind of a continuation of that too, is that think about how much information is on these on these pages and how many panels and that prestige format you're talking about. But either way, we need more of this, in my opinion, in current comics, in mainstream comic books anyway, because again, you get so much more out of it when you put more on these pages, and you get. I feel like I've invested more like into the story because there's more to dive into.
Well, yes and no. The problem, never forget, this is magazine size. So like,
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
You know, you got more room to do stuff here. So like, you know, and the fonts can go up a point or something, so you can read it a little easier.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And unfortunately, just the way the direct market works in collectors markets, it just makes that impossible to do.
Super side tangent. Have you read any of the new prestige format Black Label books?
Like the Joker stuff and
well, 3 Jokers is more of a standard comic size, but like the Jeff Lemire Joker series was a prestige format. Like there's like we'll talk about it maybe offline sometime, but it's in this kind of, it's a little bit wider, but I definitely can see some benefits of having comics in that wider format, obviously.
Yeah, well, retailers are gonna like hunt you down. Like, do not want. This is so hard to capture because of the glare, but like, it almost looks to me, and you folks, you're gonna have to see on your own right here. This is hard to. Let me see if I can kind of.
It looks good. I think it looks fine. Honestly, there's not that much of a glare.
This almost looks off registration, which makes me think this was Blue Line, because these buildings look. I'm getting some double vision here. Like
double vision.
Yeah. At the same time, like this is all a little off, and sometimes this would happen. It would be a little off. Some of the Dark Knight Returns stuff is a little off registration. It's just part of it. Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
Like, whenever he would color them, like the Sunday stuffs, those were originally like in watercolor, and they would be a little off every now and then too.
So we have Ariel, aka Shadow Cat, aka Kitty Pryde, running away from the purifiers and the warriors, and then she gets saved by Magneto. And again,
fucking up a train, which Simon Kinberg keeps putting in every fucking X-Men movie, right? Like you know Simon Kinberg. Like, look, I love Days of Future Past, but that movie was set up by Jane Goldman, right? And then we get to the scene out of nowhere. There's a fucking train sequence. I'm like, fucking Simon Kinberg, motherfucker, threw in another train. Like, and I've heard this guy speak. He loves fucking train sequences. And so then you get to like X-Men Apocalypse. Out of nowhere, there's another fucking train. There's another train. He loves it.
Yes.
The Days of Future Past one kills me the most, because not only is there a train sequence, but like Magneto like rewires Sentinels, like, you know, like wraps like intricately all this metal around it. Like, how would he know? Like, how would he know how to do that? Like
have you ever see Dark Phoenix?
Huh? No, man, but I heard there's a train sequence in the trailer. I'm like, this fucking motherfucker.
Dude, it's directed by him. Like, that's the best part. It's the end sequence.
But I went to the LA Films. I used to go to the LA Film School and see Jeff Goldsmith. He does a podcast called Jeff Goldsmith in the Q&A, and Jeff Goldsmith would interview screenwriters for movies, and you could sign up now. If you're in LA, you can go get free tickets and show up an hour early, and then you can get in. And Kinberg did a 2-hour interview after X-Men Apocalypse, which is up on the Q&A. So if you listen to it, I'm in there listening to it. And I didn't have a vote of confidence in that dude in that room, and the room didn't either, when he was like explaining sequences in that film. And he was trying to like allude to like wanting to work. He was alluding to working on Fantastic Four, or trying to tie Fantastic Four and X-Men together. And I was like, keep this motherfucker away from the Fantastic Four, please, for the love of God, dude. Like I'm sure he's like a really nice guy, but he's like the kind of guy that gets along well with suits. He's a company dude. He's a company dude, man. You know, he's like the guy you hire when you don't want to. We don't want the artist is going to put some art shit in there. Kinberg, you know, he speaks nerd. you know what I mean? You know, but he likes that nerdy shit, but he can hang out with us at the A's game. You know what I mean? Like he's like
At
kind of
the
like that
A's
guy.
game. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, one of that fucking
Killing me.
things. I don't fucking know.
I,
You know,
I
like,
freaking love. I love you, Rob. Like
he'll go to
this is great.
MMA. I would say UFC. I go to UFC, but you know what I mean? Like
You don't want to talk
I-
down to UFC.
well, it's not that. It's like it's just you can't. A lot of nerds, like when you have guys like Stylebender, Israel Adesanya, and UFC, like there are nerds who are fighters. It's not the same thing. But
Yeah,
sports
I got
folks
you. I
are
know-
like
I got you.
sports folks are Super Bowl trailer nerds, right? Like their extent of nerddom is Super Bowl trailers and the bigger hits. If everyone's going to go see a comic book movie, then they'll go too. Otherwise, not their thing. And I put Kinberg like he's the guy that became a nerd because he probably read Wizard magazine and that's it. You know what I mean? Like
I love you. I love you, dude. That's you're killing me. This is great.
I hate to be that guy, but
I got you.
fucking
we
I
have
can't
Professor-
stand his train sequences. Sorry.
I never even realized that, but you're killing me with that. Okay, so Professor Xavier is getting manipulated by Stryker. He's supposedly killed Storm and Cyclops now, and he's just under the guidance of Stryker, as we were led to believe here. And we have this his buddy, the dude who wants to go home and have a good meal and shower and then come right back to work, which I'm just like, that doesn't make a lick of sense, but okay, whatever. But yeah, my boy Nightcrawler comes in. See, I love this. See, I love this. See, I love the stacking of the panels there. See, that to me, that works in my opinion. That those little stacking there.
It's the closing, getting the image closer together though.
Yeah. No.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you're drawing them closer without really. How do you convey that emotion in a static image, even a series of static images?
It's perfect. But then you have the wide shot at the end. It's perfect.
Right. This is actually when didn't they do this joke in X-Men 2 at Nightcrawler thought he was going to kill someone?
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
They had
So,
to.
which-
They had to have
Oh,
had
for
this.
sure.
Like, I'm sure Chris McQuarrie fucking knows this book left. You know.
I'm sure
and
Brian
Brian
Singer
too.
read-
Brian knows his
Yeah.
fucking nerd shit. You know, like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say he doesn't. So
Yeah. He researched. He definitely researched his stuff for sure. Yeah. Good solid stuff. Magneto coming in. Finds this lady. This lady's really intriguing, by the way. I'm surprised if she hasn't come back from the dead. Which we'll see here in a second. Why?
what's weird is given there's no
Good.
Jean Grey, right? If they had
Yeah.
shot this as X-Men 1, this would be Famke Janssen,
Oh,
right?
dude, 100%.
Right?
Give me that.
Who
any
at
day
the
of the
time
week.
I was like, she should be Black Widow because I'm a big Rounders guy. Like when I say I love Rounders, I listen or watch Rounders at least once or twice a week for the last 20 years.
I get Rounders confused with something else. Is that the one where Rounders was like the kids and
No,
they're like they grow up
no,
being abused?
nope.
I-
Rounders is with Ed Norton and Matt Damon and their poker players. It's about playing cards and shit. Famke
Okay,
Janssen
I'm thinking
runs
Okay.
the house for for one of the poker places that they play
what
at,
movie am I
and she has this
thinking
like
of then?
New Yorkie. She has this Jersey kind of accent that it doesn't work,
Okay.
but it works because it's fucking Famke Janssen.
Oh, Famke, dude, she's just.
And what's crazy is when they wrote the script, that character was supposed to be a nerd, right? Girl that
Oh,
she's always
yeah,
hitting
right.
on Mikey, who's Matt Damon's character, and he's always like, nah. But they cast Famke Janssen, and you're just looking at it, and you're like, yeah, it is unfucking believable.
Yeah, it's impossible to make her look unattractive. Sorry.
You have to be Matt Damon in your 20s to turn that down. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so we have Billy Graham. I mean William Stryker on the podium
Yeah,
here.
straight up.
And listen, and I want people to know that I actually have a very Christian background. I went to Bible school for 2 years, and
I'm
so
sorry.
I met some amazing people, and
Sure.
I don't want to get into it, but here's the thing: these kind of people do exist. This is 100%. But this is the bad side of
No.
Christianity. I know, but the one thing I'm going to give Claremont a lot of credit for is that he definitely knew he must have some kind of background with Christianity somewhere, because he knew how to construct what were the perspective of a preacher pretty well. Like it's, I mean, some people, and listen, as someone who's been there in the trenches and both in the actual religion, and from the outside perspective, when people, you can tell when people have a history and know how it works in some ways and has seen it up close, because he really gets this really well. He must have either
Well,
did his research or he has lived it somewhere in his life.
the biggest piece of fiction in this whole series are the cops are the voice of reason. Like,
My God, no kidding. Man,
Yeah,
I wish I
total
was
bullshit.
watching the Knicks play. Yeah.
Total bullshit.
Yeah, like, yeah,
It's
right.
total bullshit. It was bullshit in '82. Like, and I could say this because, like, as a kid, we had the problem in San Diego in the '80s where these women were being raped and mutilated, right? And it turned out to be a sheriff. It took him a while to find out who it was, but so it's like I just, as a kid, I'm like, I don't trust nobody. Look at Star Wars shirt.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, little.
Dude,
That's how you know
Striker,
it's a kid Star Wars shirt. Like, it's hilarious.
Dude, that the second page there, that Striker with that is just oof, this page is incredible.
The benefit
I
of
love this thing.
painting this stuff too. I mean, you get those glows,
Oh, exactly.
He even does these frosted, semi-transparent, for the what do you call it? Where they project the words on to read through the glass.
And I like the
shit.
orange. And tell me out here, Rob, because you've really turned me on to the coloring aspect, especially with the last one we did with Joker and the mask. That orange behind Stryker and the white, like there's the background colors are so good in my opinion. I love this. Like I love how there's not the true.
Well, he's
background.
airbrushing this in this, so he's also creating speed lines out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're getting like you are getting the fire and brimstone, which is this is invoking here.
And this is again the comic book medium,
but he hits it with the blast of it, right? It's a psychic.
Right, but I mean, like, but this is looks fantastic, and people like you wouldn't be able to get this look as good on screen, in my opinion, than what it looks like right here. Looks great. Magneto
my only gripe, Eric Anderson, he's a good artist, but it feels like a guy who's doing a loose impersonation of John Byrne, like a looser gestural version of what.
No,
Byrne
I get
would do,
I get you.
Right?
Well, John Byrne's one of the greatest of all time.
It's somewhere between John Byrne and like an Alan Davis without the rendering of an Alan Davis.
Holy shit, you're right, Alan Davis.
Which is why which is why Anderson used to confuse me because one of the other graphic novels I first read around the same time was no, it was his Batman Year 2, the Grim Reaper run, right? With
he was the artist on that with Todd?
Alan Davis, yeah.
Alan Davis, yeah. He had a big run on Batman back in the day. That's right.
And so this was like I could see it, and I don't know who was influenced. I mean, this is pre-Alan Davis, but Alan Davis is older, so I don't know, but it just feels like if you had like a looser John Byrne, when you'd sort of get there.
Dude.
But,
It had the politician ears bleeding, revealing that he's a mutant.
That's the idea, that the Stryker turns on this thing that will show who are mutants, and if your ears bleed, you're a mutant. And then people who are like, this guy was the senator who's like, fuck mutants. Turns out he's a mutant. Like, what?
No. He's actually one of the people who's actually being reasonable here.
Oh, okay.
Like, actually, yeah. So he's this is what's actually kind of cool is like he's like, actually, this guy's sounding kind of crazy, and then then the next thing is his ears are bleeding. So
this is the plot they were sort of borrowing for X-Men 1, where
100%. Yeah, it took a lot from this, obviously.
But the X-Men 1 is way more ridiculous. Like, we'll turn him into jelly. Yeah. Like, I don't know, it's weird.
And see, this is what I'm gonna say too. We have the Femke clone here. I'm gonna say it right now, Rob. They should bring she hasn't been brought back from the dead. They should bring this gal back from the dead. She's a mutant. I mean, her ears are bleeding. She's bleeding, and Stryker's like, "You're a mutant. Get out of my face." So,
yeah, I could have seen something where they brought her back, as like someone called Crusade or some shit like that. Like
dude, she can come, dude. She has got. If they can go back and retcon Moira McTaggart being a mutant, anything you can do anything.
Neil Adams? That a Neil Adams face?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Little
That's
bit,
a great jawline, right?
Little bit. This is a fantastic. This right here,
dude. Yeah, it's fantastic.
With the
And look at the way look at really quick before we get to the big page. The next page is big, but that panel with Cyclops, where he's kind of lowering his head, like there's a lot of emotion there. Yeah, there's a lot of emotion there that's so subtle. The shadowing, it's so perfect.
This
God,
is
I
something
love
you
it.
can't write into a script.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you
That's
only
this
figure
guy
this
being
out.
talented.
And this
Mhm.
is another thing where I go, look, I get letterists have like opinions on the only way to letter a book, but you see how these word balloons just don't. It doesn't matter, dude.
Don't
Like,
interfere.
honestly, when it's a little imperfect like this, I prefer it because it feels human to me. A lot of the
Yeah.
like the spacing between word balloons and stuff, like all the rules that have been conjured up, make things too perfect. Like in my
Yeah.
opinion.
This is
And
good.
this
No.
is this is the one that goes. This is the GIF.
Ugh.
If you're on the internet, this is the one. Because right now, some fucking dumbass senator was
Saw
equating
that.
transgender folks to fucking mutants and
Yeah.
X-Men and shit. And I'm like, you motherfucker never
Yeah,
fucking
dude,
read your
I
God
saw
Loves
that.
Man Kills, right? Like this fucking
Yep.
asshole. Like
You kicked his ass, dude. That was amazing. And
this.
this is straight up like one of the best panels I think in X-Men history. Like
Yeah.
where and I only say that because if you know the lore, right? Nightcrawler is the most beautiful, like human, like person
Everyone
in all
loves
of
Nightcrawler. I've never
Yeah,
had anyone
everyone
say
does.
I fucking I hate. It's never happened.
No
Right?
one.
This
You
is
don't
the only
exist. Yeah.
motherfucker who's ever not liked Nightcrawler. We're looking at him right now. This fucking dude. No, I'm gonna say it right now, Paul. This is the greatest panel in the history of X-Men.
There you
Like
go.
if I had to sum up what X-Men is in one fucking
there.
thing, there you go.
Dude,
That's
you
it.
Yeah.
It's humans. It's humans being inhuman, right?
Yeah. And judging what on the outside of what is probably the most beautiful human being in the Marvel universe. Like Kurt Wagner is like,
It's
yeah.
judging the outside while your inside is really what's vile,
Yeah, exactly. And we have Ariel. I love Ariel's response here though. He's more human than you'll ever be. Oh my god. Just fucking oh god.
Yeah, the
So
gun
good.
against them. And this is the one
Ugh.
thing that here's the thing. I love Die Hard. And I love the ending to Die Hard. And this definitely predates. The reason why this doesn't work is because this motherfucker is nowhere else. He should have been there he should have been like the Jim Gordon in page 1 finding the dead kids.
You're yeah, dude.
And he should have been
100%.
defending the system throughout the story. But here, he's not gonna let this motherfucker murder an innocent person.
I mean,
And that's
it
the
works.
missed opportunity of this bit. Because I'm
I
sorry,
agree.
the world we live in, man. You could say, well, it's different now than it was then. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. We only have more cameras now. I think it's the exact same fucking world. We just have cameras. So like,
Yeah.
I just don't see many cops. I'm sure there's a cop out there that's gonna go, Rob, I would do it. Yeah, my dad was fucking, private security. He was a sheriff and shit. Like my biological father. I have law enforcement with their whole family. Would one of my own family members do the right thing? Sure, but you know what they would say about the rest of the police department? Most of them wouldn't. Most of them wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's their own words.
yeah.
So yeah, that's the one thing. I just think like if this were a Jim Gordon type character we're following, I could buy it, because I have a prejudice against this uniform. I'm seeing his shell, right? So this turns our own. If you have a distrust of the system, and maybe rightfully so, you should say, hey, not all of them are fucking what the exterior. There's another lesson to be learned there for the reader in a way, right?
Yeah. You've actually, it works for me, but you're right. You're absolutely right. That's a really good point. Like you blew me away with that, because if you establish him as the guy who discovers the kids, and he has reason now, motivation to defend Kitty because he can't bear to see that happen again. That's brilliant. That's a
Yeah,
brilliant
but it'd
point.
have to go through the story. Also, something else I never noticed till now: Stryker's cross also looks like a fucking crosshair.
But yeah, I was gonna say like freaking like
Never dawned
cross.
on me really till now. I don't know
A
why.
target. Yeah,
I
exactly.
may have noticed that when I was a kid, but I don't remember noticing it. So whatever.
Claremont really, listen, I don't love Professor Xavier's like, I can't believe I feel like giving up. And then you have Scott kind of come in here and I don't love it, but what he has Scott say is so Cyclops, in my opinion. It works. Like Professor Xavier seems out of character a little bit.
Here's the
but
problem. Here's the problem with Professor Xavier. This book and Claremont's writing at this point in time predates Star Trek: The Next Generation. Once you get Star Trek: The Next Generation and you see Jean-Luc Picard, I mean,
yeah,
even my uncle, who was a big comic book nerd, would tell me he should be Professor Xavier when we watched Star Trek. I was like, Professor X or Professor X. I didn't know Xavier, right? So when you see Patrick Stewart's performance as Jean-Luc Picard, I mean, that's why they cast him as Professor. It wasn't just because everyone was saying this. Everyone was saying that's fucking Professor Xavier, And so that personality is what affected the comics as we know it in the cartoon, and all that stuff. So anything before that to me reads as, I don't know what voice, if these were actors, I don't know what voice he's pulling from, because this isn't Martin Luther King speaking. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. No. And again, it's a little out of character. It's like, listen, we're human, right? I think that's the thing that God loves, man kills. It shows the humanity of people, both the good, the bad, the evil, and just, and I think that's the whole theme of the book. So I don't hate that. It's not my favorite version, or it's just a little out of character for Professor Xavier, how like almost like super mega depressed he gets. But again, I do like the fact the emphasize of how like this is really is Scott Summers to me, like summed up in that last panel there, where he just kind of goes off and says, "No, like this is like we have." This
is a Star Trek ending. I mean, this is a class.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
If you watch the first original Star Trek series, like, and even Star Trek: The Motion Picture, where at the very end they all have like a philosophical conversation about the shit they just went through.
Right.
Star Trek: The Motion Picture is literally the TV series as a movie, because like, at the end they actually have this wrap-up bit, this epilogue, and I'm like, they never do that. And this is them having the whole, well, I guess that thing we just went through, and they remind you of all the shit they did, and he was very clear. I never killed, and he goes, and I certainly didn't kill anybody, just remind you we didn't break the rules. Like
yeah. But you bring up a great point that I love the reflection. I think that's why Star Trek Generation, like you said, I only watched a little bit of it, but from what I've heard and what I've seen, it's that whole idea of dissecting what they've gone through. That is definitely something that X-Men have always done really, really well because of Claremont, because they reflect, because you have that ensemble cast. When you have a hero like Spider-Man or Batman, you have to go to the inner monologue, which is a whole different way of writing, right? When you have people that go off of each other like the X-Men, you can really get deep and good conversations. And go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
And you can leave it on shaky ground because some characters won't agree. You're not forced into an arc where a character may or may not have to learn something, and then you can like disagree with that. You can be like, oh, I agree with this guy and this guy, but I agree with that guy and none of these. There's someone that you can relate to,
Yeah, like I identify more with Storm, or I identify more with Magneto here. Like, and again, this is all great stuff. The hand gestures of like, I'm going to join Magneto, and I just love the uneasiness of Magneto. Like they see Magneto's point, but they're not quite there yet. I love it. This really is good writing.
And I gotta say this: if there's anything Marvel's done that I fundamentally disagree with, it's not letting Wolverine smoke. I hate smoking.
Yeah, it's so weird.
I hate it.
Me too.
I hate it.
100%.
I get smoking killed your dad or whatever, Joe Quesada. Like I get it, but like fucking bullets kill fucking people all the time, and they're in every. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand it. If you had a healing factor and you could live almost forever, you really think he'd care?
Well, it was a Quesada thing at first, but then Disney did it later on. Like
Oh,
they killed it.
whatever. That's what happened. That's the way. It
I know,
went
I know.
down,
It Kusada did it first. I know. I
Yeah,
Kusada
yeah,
did it first. So
yeah. So
But
I
yeah, this
disagree
is-
with Disney doing it too. So
I agree. I'm with you too. And you have the sweet tears of Xavier.
this blew my
healing the
mind at the time because I didn't understand when I read this. I didn't have the context of the Dark Phoenix saga, and Jean being dead
Yeah.
and stuff. Like I just had to like.
Well,
I had
it's
to,
just two friends
reverse
too.
Working. I was
like-
totally great with these two getting together. I thought.
Oh,
I
word.
thought
I mean,
this-
yeah.
I thought this was the direction in X-Men 3 that they were going to go with Jean dying in X-Men 2, right?
They never dated, but this was an interesting. I did forget about this, and Storm is such an interesting. Why she didn't hook up with Scott in the first place, because they are very similar. I mean, Storm is a lot more, I would say, less rigid than Scott. Scott's
No,
like
they
the most
brought
rigid.
Jean back in the third one. She shouldn't have been in the movie. That's
I'm
it's
talking about I'm talking about the comics,
right,
though,
right.
the
But I'm
comics.
talking about
Yeah.
the films. But yeah, I know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
I
But that's
hear
great,
you. But,
You know what? But my last thing I will say that last couple panels there is that it's a beautiful moment with two people of just of I don't know. I love that aspect of it, like of growing and things like that. But yeah, this book is special.
When they tell me it's not
It really is.
political or doesn't reflect the times, it's like you got your fucking mind. Like
Dude, it's anyone who doesn't know this says that comics are never political, you can kiss my ass. Seriously.
yeah, seriously.
It's great. It's a great book, man. This is a great book.
Seriously, I bust this one out. I won't say every year, right? But I do bust this one out every couple years or so. And every time I get done this, I'm like, I gotta go watch X-Men 2. Go put an X-Men 2. Go put X-Men 2. Okay. I want you to know what I think is the thing to, as far as I'm concerned, you could go. You could go X-Men First Class, X-Men 2, Days of Future Past, and Logan, and there's your 4 movies for me. You could skip the other shit. So there's good bits in it. Like I think X-Men 1 has the Chris McQuarrie opening, which is brilliant, right?
It is very good.
But there's just a lot of nonsense in that film that I don't need to deal with. Like
it's very late 90s. Because
I saw it in theaters. I was like,
I saw it 4 times in theaters.
I defended. I even subscribed to the Senator Kelly fucking email. Like they would send you this like fake newspaper thing, right? With all these fake leading up to the movie's release, because I was that nerd. But I'm just saying, like X-Men 2, Days of Future Past, Logan, and if you want to put X-Men First Class in there, you can, because I do think that first movie is pretty excellent.
It's pretty solid. It's a solid movie.
It's solid, and at least gives you it to me. If you jump from that to X-Men 2 to Days of Future Past, then you ties them together. You know who they
for
are.
sure. Yeah, for sure.
And then to me, the epilogue is Logan. Like that's your trilogy, those 3 films, and then your epilogue is Logan.
I can confess something to you. You're gonna get mad at me.
I know you don't.
Not the biggest Logan fan.
Well, you know what? Well,
I like it.
You're nuts. You're nuts. Yeah, and I'm just gonna tell you, I never.
Scene. Enough said.
The Reavers are in there, and they're brilliant, and they're scary, and
the Reavers are not. They're okay.
No, they're brilliant.
All right,
you're nuts.
This
you're
is
a madman.
This is a future conversation for a different episode.
You're a madman who likes Quantumania, but you don't like Logan. So we gotta do something.
I like Quantumania a lot.
I know you do. That's
what's wrong with that.
That's the problem. That's the problem. You're out here not liking Logan, but you're liking Quantumania.
I liked Logan. I just didn't like it as everybody else did.
I'm sorry. I don't know who hurt you when you were a child, Paul. But we gotta go. We gotta go.
All right.
We gotta go. The God Loves, Man Kills. Grab a copy. Get the original. Get one full size. Don't get a soft cover. Don't get the bullshit. There's another newer cover. Get this. Get these. Not that expensive. Go find a used copy. Own this version. That's the one to get. See y'all later. Peace.
Amen.